The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
Earlier, we spoke to the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, who wants to make his city the crypto capital of the world. He's made inroads with crypto exchanges to open offices in Miami, encourages clean energy Bitcoin miners to move in their data centers, and suggests city staff have the option to be paid in Bitcoin. He also wears the Bitcoin laser eyes on social media. I asked Mayor Suarez what incentives he's offering to crypto firms to make a move to Miami more enticing.
I think there's a lot enticing about Miami, beginning with the fact that we were first movers in the crypto space. We were the first city to put Satoshi's white paper on our website. We were the first city to begin offering our employees the ability to be paid in crypto, our residents the ability to pay fees and taxes in crypto, and potentially eventually hold crypto on our balance sheet. So we've been probably the most forward-thinking city in America on crypto, maybe one of the most forward-thinking in the country and the world. And I think that's something that is very attractive to people in the crypto and the Bitcoin space in particular.
Are you offering any direct incentives to businesses?
We have an incentive packages for all businesses that are moving to the city. If you locate in the downtown development authority, that's one. I think the second thing is we have nuclear power, which is cheap and is abundant. And it's something that is not, and it's clean. It's not something that's available in all parts of the country or the world. And I think it can help tremendously with the ESG issues that Bitcoin mining is facing. And
Mayor Suarez, I've spoken to a lot of VCs in the Miami area and people who are involved in tech, and they see 4 problems that Miami has in attracting technology such as Bitcoin developers and the like. First of all, there's no major anchor such as a Google or Facebook or Microsoft that some of the other cities in this country have. There's no world-class engineering school like Caltech, MIT, Cooper Union, or the likes. There's a tremendous amount of traffic getting around the city of Miami. You know, those of us who have been stuck on 95. Feel pain every day when we take it. And finally, there's also the housing stock, a lot of new housing stock in the upper ends, but for things in the middle, for the kind of housing stocks that would be necessary to attract younger talent who maybe might not have the resources but are trying to work their way as they create these new companies, it's just not there. It seems to be quite bifurcated. So housing, real estate, and anchors such as companies and institutional. What are you guys doing to deal with these headwinds and to address them?
Well, I was kind of laughing as you were saying it because those are sort of the counter brands on Miami. But, you know, there isn't a city in urban America that doesn't have traffic issues. If you want to hear what Los Angeles traffic issues are, or New York's traffic issues are, you can ask their residents and they'll tell you that they have major traffic issues. We're actually one of the few cities that's actually doing something about it, which is why we've been meeting with the Boring Company, which is Elon Musk's underground tunneling company, to actually have, have urban underground transit. In terms of our university system, it's funny that you say that because today, FIU, which is my alma mater, just got ranked the #1 public institution in the state of Florida. And so it's something I put out on my social media. So maybe we haven't done such a good job talking about how great our university system is down here and how much talent we produce and export and have exported for multiple decades. But I think anybody who has been paying attention to Miami after December 4th can tell you without reservation, we attracted from Los Angeles the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. We got FTX to name the arena, which was a $200 million naming rights, a large crypto trader. We have eToro, which is the second largest crypto trading platform in the world, named Miami, one of its headquarters, its domestic headquarters, its American headquarters. Blockchain.com also named Miami its headquarters. So we have all the momentum in the world. We have, in terms of having major companies, all the companies that you mentioned have a presence in Miami. Google, Microsoft have offices in Miami. They may not be headquartered in Miami, but they all have offices in Miami. And frankly, if you talk to their CEOs and their upper echelon employees, which I have, they're expanding their presence in Miami significantly because they see that this moment is converting into a movement where cities like Miami are becoming the capital of capital because we have a favorable tax structure. We have a tremendous quality of life that is significantly better than some of the cities that you mentioned. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of cities that are in particularly developed time in the university perspective may not necessarily be tech hubs per se. They export a lot of their time as well.
Show. You raised an excellent point, which is that Miami probably does have a first mover advantage and it does have a lot of momentum, but that could change, right? Maybe largely in part thanks to your efforts. We're going to see a lot of cities across the United States trying to become the center of cryptocurrency. And in fact, as you know, there's a mayoral race happening in New York right now. And the frontrunner, Eric Adams, has said that he wants New York City to become the center of Bitcoin. So let's just get into it. Like, who's going to be the center of Bitcoin, Miami or New York?
Well, look, I think first of all, it's great that the potential mayor of New York is saying that. Listen, I want every city in urban America to succeed, and I think for every city to succeed, not just in urban America but across the, we've got to start adopting Bitcoin. We have to start mainstreaming Bitcoin more and more into our everyday life for a variety of reasons that we can get into. But I think I think it's interesting because I didn't hear the candidate mayor-elect potentially talk much about it during his campaign. And I don't know what he's going to be able to do about the tax differential and the cost of living differential between New York and Miami, which is, I think, also pushing a tremendous amount of people to Miami. So if he's willing to pledge that he's going to reduce the city's income tax to zero, maybe even urge the state to reduce their state income tax to zero, which they pay, their budget is double the size of the state of Florida. The state of Florida has a greater population than the state of New York. So, I think they have some other fundamental problems that make it very, very difficult for that to become a reality.
Mayor Suarez, you touched on this earlier about the ESG concerns, and right now China is cracking down on miners, ostensibly because of part of these ESG concerns. So are you trying to attract these Chinese Bitcoin miners, and what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I'm not so sure that the reason why China is cracking down on them is for ESG concerns.
That's what they say, at least.
That's what they say. Yeah, they've been part of the reason why there's ESG concerns related to mining is because there's so much coal-producing mining happening in China. I think China just issued its own cryptocurrency, and I think China, which is a command economy that wants to control every aspect of society, probably doesn't like the fact that Bitcoin is decentralized, is not controlled by a central bank, and that they don't act soon, their ability to control their currency is going to be in jeopardy. And that's probably why they're kicking out crypto miners and less about ESG concerns.
And there is this migration, though, to the West. Are you incentivized or are trying to attract these miners to come to Miami?
We do want Miami to be a mining hub. We think that we offer relatively inexpensive energy costs. We think that technology obviates the differential in terms of temperature, because some people say, Miami's hotter, and so it's harder to keep the computers cooled. And I think there's new technology that's going to make it easier. There's new microchips that are coming out that require half the energy use than the microchips that are being used now to mine. And then, of course, you have things like proof of stake versus proof of concept that may reduce the need for as many mathematical computations as are happening currently on the Bitcoin system. So there's a lot of different ways that I think the crypto Bitcoin world deal with the ESG issue. But I think you also have to put the ESG issue in context. And people make a big deal of the fact that, that Bitcoin mining takes up the same amount of electricity of Argentina. First of all, I'm not so sure that's ever been confirmed, but let's assume for argument's sake that it's true, right? Bitcoin has at least had $1 trillion plus value. It may be less than now after its recent price drops. But the GDP of Argentina is 500 billion. So you have a technology that has double the value, that is actually twice as efficient as all the energy use of a particular country. And if that's going to be the basis currency of the world, it's definitely going to require a lot of energy. It's going to require a lot more energy than just one country worth.
Mayor Suarez, Miami, we're in the northernmost city in Latin America, basically. The city's attracted a lot of banking from Latin America as well. And now you're focusing on Bitcoin and crypto. Do you see that as a change in focus, or do you see any synergies happening? Are you working on creating synergies between Latin American banks that are located in Miami, or do you think that it's just going to be too many different things to handle, and maybe you should just focus on crypto for now?
No, tremendous synergies. And I think that the Latin American, South American market could end up being, and it seems to be right now, the market that is adopting Bitcoin and crypto in particular at the highest rate, the fastest rate. So obviously, we all know what's happening in El Salvador. I've been hearing Panama doing similar things. And when you consider the fact that a lot of these countries for years have dealt with currency manipulation, tremendous amounts of corruption, the fact that they can potentially be on a currency system that is significantly greater in value, no matter what the fluctuations and the volatility than the U.S. dollar is right now, that's indisputable. One Bitcoin is worth 30-something thousand U.S. dollars, and the fact that it can't be manipulated through a monetary policy or fiscal policy by any country is something that's very powerful as a purchasing power tool for these countries. And I think they're strongly considering it. And I think if you start to see adoption there, you may see some adoption in Africa, and that may create a worldwide adoption of unregulated cryptocurrencies.
What about the volatility?
Speaking of El Salvador, since you just mentioned it, I know that El Salvador has announced that they are going to accept Bitcoin as legal tender, something that was actually first announced in Miami. But since then, there's been some criticism and some backlash. And one of the popular criticisms is that this is not in the spirit of Bitcoin, because it's basically saying that merchants have to accept Bitcoin if it is offered to them. And that's just sort of making Bitcoin compulsory. I'm just curious how you respond to that.
Look, I think anytime you do anything in public life, there's somebody that has the criticism for it. It reminds you of, I was talking to the editorial board, and they're, being critical of the fact that we have income inequality in our cities, which we do, and every city in urban America has it. And then as you're bringing high-paying jobs, they say, well, those high-paying jobs are creating gentrification. So, well, how else do you cure income inequality and poverty unless you create high-paying jobs? So it's sort of a circular problem where anytime somebody creates a solution, somebody identifies a problem to create a solution. So I think people should have the right to be able to use a Bitcoin in any sort of establishment. The fact that a government could mandate it, again, most people always criticize Bitcoin because it wasn't mainstream. Now that it's becoming mainstream, people are criticizing the fact that it's mainstream, and I think that's kind of it's kind of short-sighted. I think you have to focus on the utility of Bitcoin and the reason why it exists, and the fact that it's completely untethered and for the moment, it's been unhackable.
Mayor, you alluded to this earlier. The market cap of Bitcoin used to be over $1 trillion. Now it's almost half that. Are you concerned about the volatility when you're giving it into the hands of a normal everyday people who don't want to see if they're making a salary see that cut in half a couple months down the line?
Again, that view is kind of a tricky view. What you're doing is you're analyzing the last few months of Bitcoin. If you look at Bitcoin year over year, there's still a significant increase, right? And so I think that's one issue. The second issue is what do you think Bitcoin is going to become? Is it always going to become a store of value, or is it going to metamorphosize at some point into a currency or something that's used as an everyday thing to buy and sell goods? I think, in terms of the evolution or mainstreaming of Bitcoin, we're still probably in the third or fourth inning of a 9-inning game. And certainly, part of giving people the freedom to choose whether or not they want to be paid in Bitcoin, which, by the way, they could do on their own. They could just get paid in dollars, turn around, open up a Coinbase account or a Gemini account or a blockchain.com account and buy their own Bitcoin. So you're just making it easier and creating something that is not otherwise available to any other employee. And by the way, it's available to high-end, wealthy employees like football players and basketball players and professional athletes.
Mayor Suarez, a few miles north of us on A1A, there's a fellow Floridian Republican in Mar-a-Lago who is not a big fan of Bitcoin and what it means for the dollar. He sees it as a challenge to the supremacy of the U.S. dollar. What do you say to him?
It is definitely a challenge to the supremacy of the U.S. dollar. And I think most people that are in his age bracket similarly have fears or skepticisms over Bitcoin. I mean, that's what I've encountered in terms of talking to people that are, that are in that age demographic. What I would say to those is, what is the U.S. government doing to impact the U.S. dollar? Well, it's not balancing its budget. It's spending money frivolously and in enormous amounts, which can create hyperinflation. And so, of course, I mean, of course, it's going to threaten the U.S. dollar. It already is threatening the U.S. dollar. One, US dollar, a Bitcoin used to be a fraction of a US dollar. And if the currency of the world, the US dollar, was supreme, a currency that was created by mutual consent, essentially, should never be worth more than a currency backed by a government that is, doing things the right way. So I think the problem is that these governments have, rile up massive deficits, are not fiscally disciplined, and then they say, oh, there's competition, which we're supposed to love in this country, competition. A competitive product is the product that people are choosing over a product that we have the ability to manipulate and oftentimes do not manipulate to the benefit of the people. I mean, I just don't understand the argument.
Are concerned at all about a U.S. government crackdown on Bitcoin, either because it is challenging the dollar or because, we're starting to hear crypto mentioned a lot in the same sentence as ransomware? That's something that's very hard to control at a city level? Is that something that you're concerned about?
I think there's going to be some regulation at some point. I think it'll be more similar like financial products in terms of the way financial products are regulated. But I don't think that there can be regulation that does what China did. You don't have, in the United States, you don't have the kind of authoritarian control that you have in China. So you can't just shut something down. I remember when Uber started operating outside of the rules here in Miami-Dade County, and there literally was not enough code enforcement officers to cite every single Uber driver, because we went from 2,500 taxis to 14,000 Uber drivers almost overnight. So there are things that happen in our community that are too big to regulate. I think Bitcoin is one of them. We have, over 100 million, Bitcoin accounts, in the world, potentially, tens of millions in the United States. And I just don't think the federal government's going to be able to go computer by computer and try to shut people down. I mean, when my mother and my aunt are asking me how to set up a Coinbase account, I think the being able to shut it down has ended.
Mayor Suarez, are there any currencies that worry you, the likes of Monero? Are there any that you think you'd rather not see being used in Miami or in general?
Look, I think, in this world of uncertainty, there's a lot of things that worry, right? There are things that I have to, as an investor and as someone who, is putting your hard-earned money into this, you have to do a deep dive into the utility and sort of the back end and the mathematics and the case studies and the use studies for anything that you get involved in, right? And I think that there's a lot of unknowns and fuzzy things that are happening in the crypto world. But I also think what Bitcoin has done is it's established itself. It's established its value. It's established its utility. It's established its transferability. It's established the fact that it's hard to hack, if not impossible to hack, and that it's secure, and that it's not tethered, right? And so even though, yes, the volume, the transaction volume is part it needs to be to avoid some level of volatility, I think that will come in the future. And I think that, I'm very bullish on it, of course.